beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer Diamond, and if you haven't been here before, I live a whole food, plant-exclusive, SOFAs-free, gluten-free lifestyle for health and well-being. And SOFAs is salt, oil, flour, alcohol, and sugar-free, as well as gluten-free. And today I wanted to bring you along while I make some stir-fried mushrooms without any oil. So mushrooms are a big staple in my diet. I love them. I love the taste of them and the flavor and the texture. And I also know that a lot of people feel like when you cook mushrooms, you need oil to cook them. And I just want to tell you that I don't use any oil, and I'm able to saute. I usually do a water or a broth or a dry saute when I stir fry, which I guess isn't the technical term for what I'm doing, but when I cook the mushrooms. And so I thought I would show you how to cook mushrooms without using oil. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about mushrooms. And the first thing I want to tell you is when you're buying mushrooms, and mushrooms, there are so many varieties of mushrooms, but the most common ones that I see in the grocery store are these. These are cremini mushrooms. They're kind of like a brown top. And you'll also see the white button mushrooms. And then you will come across shiitake and blue oyster, or sometimes just called oyster, and trumpet. I mean, there's all kinds of variations, but I know that these are the most common ones that are found. And frankly, I mean, I like to rotate in all different kinds of mushrooms because I think they offer a different flavor, texture, and of course, when you change it up, there's probably different nutrients and benefits. But as long as you are good with any mushrooms in your diet, which I feel like I am, any of them will do. So I have a couple of both here, as you see. I actually got these white mushrooms, these white button mushrooms at Costco, and they come in a big container. And these are not cleaned yet, but this bowl is cleaned. And these cremini mushrooms I also got at Costco, and I don't always get my mushrooms there, but I just happened to this time. I can find some really interesting and unique ones in our local farmers market, which if you haven't seen my farmers market video, please check it out. I'll link it above, and check out the mushrooms in that video. Also, I want to talk about how to choose mushrooms. So usually for me, these came covered in a plastic, and so they're, you can't pick them all out. I mean, you can find some that are in the grocery store that you can individually pick out. They're more of like a bulk. But if they're already pre-wrapped or they're in a container, it's hard to look at all of them. And so what I try to do is I try to move them around, and what I am looking for is the bottom part. The cap, this is the cap, and here's the stem. And I'm looking for the ring or the part that connects between the cap and the stem, between the cap and the stem. And why that's important is because sometimes you'll see some of them that are starting to pull away, like this one. And so that is an indication that the mushroom is starting to dry out, and it isn't going to have very much time left. It'll start to get soggy, and it's going bad, basically. Now, this does not mean it's bad by any means. So if I am not going to use an entire container at once, I will purposefully look to see if there are any that are starting to pull away and use those up first. And then if I run out of those, which is really great, then I'll move on to the closed ones. And just a little tip in case you didn't know about that. Now, another thing that I really would like to talk about for a minute is cleaning your mushrooms. Mushrooms usually come with dirt on them. And they can be grown in the sun, and they can be grown under growing lights in a building. But regardless, they're still going to have dirt on them. So when you're looking for how to clean off the dirt, there's a few different ways, and people have different ideas of what they like. Mushrooms typically are full of all kinds of, natural waters, and they absorb very quickly. So if you cook this, you might notice that when it's done cooking, it's not going to be this size. It's going to shrink down because all the waters are going to evaporate out of it. And it's also great if you want to have it like absorb any kind of marinade, because it will absorb that. But for cleaning, if you add water, if you're washing it under water, which is a great way to wash them. In fact, I washed these under running water. Then just know that it might absorb more water. So when you're cooking it, you just might get more water, and so it might take a little bit longer. But another way you could do it is you can do a dry cloth, and you can just wipe it off as best as you can. Some people like to use a damp cloth, right? So it's not submerged in water, it's not a dry cloth, and maybe it'll collect more of the dirt that might be found on the mushroom. And then some people, if they really have a pretty dirty mushroom, you might fill a bowl with water and just kind of let it soak a little bit. Of course, it will probably become full of more water, but those are the different ways that I know to clean a mushroom. And lastly, I just want to talk about some of the benefits, health benefits with mushrooms. First of all, mushrooms, they can offer vitamin D, which is fantastic, right? But I believe that they can only offer vitamin D if they're grown outdoors in the sun. Now, how do you know if a store-bought mushroom has been grown outdoors in the sun? Usually, they will say vitamin D on the package somewhere, with vitamin D or whatever. And the ones that don't say anything about vitamin D usually mean that they were grown indoors under a lamp. Now, they're fine to eat all of them, but if you are looking to improve or up your vitamin D, it might be cool if you have both options. Maybe go with the ones that say that they were grown outdoors. Now, when we go to the farmer's market, they are grown outdoors. And I can ask my farmer's market to make sure they're not growing them indoors. And so I know that those are going to have the vitamin D. Because we get our vitamin D from the sun, but there are ways that we can also get it elsewhere. Some other health benefits are they're really good for the immune system. And they can help get rid of, fight off illness that's coming up. Mushrooms are great to help with cancer. They have a fiber in them that, might protect against cancer substances, but they're just a wonderful thing to add to your diet. Cardiovascular disease, they're really great to help with lowering cholesterol to some degree, and they're full of antioxidants. And I always think of antioxidants as being in things that are very deep in color, like purple cabbages and dark wild blueberries and things like that. But actually, you can find antioxidants in mushrooms. Isn't that cool? And antioxidants help us get rid of free radicals. And so it's just a wonderful thing. They also have potassium. They are good for gut health and bone health and all kinds of different benefits. And besides potassium, they have zinc. I think there's selenium in them. I mean, the list goes on and on. You could look into the benefits of mushrooms. You will be so surprised at how amazing they are. So enough of that. Let's get cutting with these. Okay, so there are several ways that I like to enjoy mushrooms. One way is to just slice them up like I'm going to do right here, and I include the whole thing, stem and all. Some people, they don't like the stem, or you can remove the stem and chop it up into little bits and add it in all kinds of things, but I just put them in there. Another way would be to make some kind of a broth with mushrooms, and that's pretty amazing. You could also take like a sauce that you make. You could use coconut aminos, or any kind of sauce that might be that you like, and go ahead and soak these in the sauce for a little bit, and you can just, the options go on, but those are the ways that I usually do it. And I find that mushrooms are great just plain. Now, I used to eat a lot of raw mushrooms, and I stopped eating a lot of raw mushrooms. I think that I had heard that it was just, I can't remember right now why. If you know why, post a comment in the chat and remind me, why is it that it's better to eat them, cooked? But at any rate, I should have looked that back up to remind myself before we started. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut these up. I do like to saute these a lot with mushrooms and garlic. Man, I don't even need anything else. But when I do a saute like this, another thing that I like to add sometimes is just a little salt-free seasoning. And there are all kinds of salt-free seasoning options in the world today. And so some of the ones that I really enjoy are Well Your World's Galaxy Dust. It's a salt-free. I like Benson's Table Tasty, another salt-free. They're very different flavors, those two. Costco has a no salt seasoning. Mrs. Dash has a no salt seasoning. So you can just go and just always double check the ingredients, because if you just read the outside of a package, it isn't always telling you everything that's actually listed in the ingredients. Sometimes they accidentally forget to tell you that there's, things in there that you might be trying to avoid or not ingest. So it's just a good idea to, after you choose it, then turn it over. And even if you think you know that something is good, I tend to like to recheck every once in a while, because manufacturers and products change their ingredients. And so you think you're safe, but then it comes to find out, my goodness, they added something, and that was something that I was trying to avoid. So if you're unaware of it, I know for me that's happened, and I get pretty discouraged, but it just reminds me that I got to be on top of my game. And so, I'm just cutting these. Now, you can buy mushrooms pre-sliced, and that is great too. So then it cuts down if you don't have time, because everything takes a little bit of time. But it's nice. Although I notice when I've gotten the pre-sliced ones, if I'm not planning on eating them right away, they do start to go, get not as fresh, faster than if I cut them myself. So you got to do what works for you. Another thing, you can find mushrooms frozen in the freezer section. Yay! I love that. I have some in my freezer that are the shiitake, and I just have to make sure that they don't have any oil or anything extra in them. Mine just say shiitake mushrooms from the freezer, and so I enjoy having that as a backup. Or if I'm cooking something, oatmeal, if you haven't seen my savory oatmeal or savory millet, savory breakfast dishes, I will link it in the description, and you can check it out. Now, here is the last one. I think this will probably be good for me for today. So I still have the rest of these for future, and these look really good. So I feel comfortable that I can, eat these in a day or two, and I'll still have them be fresh for me. So we are going to turn on the stove top and just heat up the pan. And while we're waiting, I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for those of you who have subscribed to my channel. I truly appreciate your support, and I hope that if you haven't subscribed, you'll hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and then you'll be notified when I go live or post new videos. And please give this a thumbs up. Let me know that you're enjoying the content and help me grow my channel. And okay, we're gonna get ready here. I think what I'll do is just move these into this bowl just to make it easier to bring over to the pan behind me. Now, you wanna use a pan that is not going to stick, right? And if I were doing onions and garlic, which sound amazing, which I usually do, I could have them all go in at the same time, or I could put the onions in first and let them get a little bit of the juices going first, and that would be just fine. Okay, so let's take these over here, and I have a little bit of water here. The water is really good for me to have because it's an indicator to me as to how hot the pan is. Now, I don't want it scorching hot, but I do want it hot. So when it's too hot and I first put the mushrooms in, they will stick for a minute. And so once you pour the mushrooms in, you don't want to just let them stick. You want to go ahead and start to move them around. And okay, so I had it on high, I turned it to medium. I'm going to go ahead and just see the little bubbles? So that is a hot pan. So we know we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and pour in all these beautiful mushrooms right into this pan. You notice, just a reminder, I didn't use any oil. I didn't use anything at all. I just the hot pan. Oh, and what I was saying about the pans are, this is a stainless steel, so you want to get a non-stick pan, but you don't want to use Teflon or those coatings that, you know, have been found to cause, you know, issues with cancers and different things like that. Now, I just kind of mixed it for a second. I'm going to go ahead and cover the lid. And a green pan is another pan that I use, but this is an all-clad. I just love my all-clad. I actually got a set many years ago, like over 35 years ago, and I still have it, and some of it's the outside doesn't look as pretty, and then I got an extended extra pans maybe back in 2004, and the original ones that I've had, like, they're still perfect. And so they are an investment, but if you're going to be cooking and you plan to use them, like, you will never have to replace them. I have even scorched the bottom of them black, and I just soak it and it cleans up. So good tip to know. All right, so I'm just still standing here, and now I'm just going to start to mix it. Why did I put the lid on? You don't have to do that, but I find that it just kind of helps the start of the water being released from the mushrooms. And that is just going to be helpful in not letting it stick. And then once it's released, all the water from the mushrooms, you'll see that it's going to be great. So this one's a little stuck, but that's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why I want to mix it and have the flame so that it's not super hot. And if you find that, oh my gosh, it's sticking more than I want it to, add a tablespoon of water. Seriously, it will do the trick. Now, with mushrooms, you don't want to get impatient and add water thinking that it's not breaking down. Just give it a minute. It'll be great. Another thing you could use, even if it's a tablespoon at a time, is vegetable broth. Homemade vegetable broth is great, or no salt, no oil, store-bought vegetable broth. I have a link I can put above here if you want to watch me make my vegetable broth. I keep the scraps from my food, and it's super simple. I do it in the Instant Pot. You could do it on the stove top, and that's it. But look at this. You can see it's already breaking down. Look. Isn't this exciting? Now, I just so badly wish I had put onions in here, but there's a reason that I didn't, because I'm going to be eating these with another dish, and they already have onions in it. Can you have too many onions? I don't think so, but I also wanted to just show you the basics of how to cook with just doing mushrooms. Maybe we'll do onions another time. And garlic, you could use fresh garlic in this. It's all wonderful. Look at that. It's not sticking. Can you see? You know, pretty darn good. I love this. So now I might just cover it and just make sure that the flame is on the low to medium. And then it's just gonna really just depend on how cooked you want the mushrooms. So you can just do it, you know, check every few minutes and then take it off when you're done. I wanna cook mine pretty good. So it's gonna take us a few minutes and then you'll see, and there's already smelling delicious in here, the aroma. I just love mushrooms. They're so great. So if you aren't familiar with mushrooms, they have mushroom powder, mushroom teas, I think. And I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to get your mushrooms in. And if you haven't tried mushrooms, or you remember, I don't like mushrooms, I've never liked mushrooms, think about how long has it been since you tried those mushrooms? What variety did you try? Were they real fresh? Like, how did you have them? And maybe consider trying them again or trying a different kind. And maybe you'll surprise yourself. Maybe you might actually just like mushrooms. Now, my husband's not a big mushroom fan, and I am. He likes the flavor, but he doesn't normally like to eat a lot of mushrooms. And so I often do things on the side, or I'll ask him, can I put it in, and I'll put big chunks in and you can take them out. But between you and I think he's starting to like try mushrooms a little bit more. And so far, I haven't seen him give me those big pieces of mushrooms. So, you know, it's worth seeing if your tastes have changed and expanding your palate. So let's check the mushrooms again. Look at that. Woo, lots of moisture. Just what I was talking about. So this, at this point, does not have any sticking going on. As you can see overhead, there's plenty of liquid that's coming out of the mushrooms, and it all looks great. So I'm just gonna keep letting it do its thing. It's magic. You know, there are also times when I can take mushrooms and slice them up and marinate them in like a recipe with balsamic vinegar. And the one that I really like is from California Balsamic, and I just like to marinate it, maybe with a little maple syrup or just the balsamic and maybe some coconut aminos and maybe some seasonings, depending on what I'm looking for, and then put them on a tray and you can bake them. That's really good. You can bread them, and then they're kind of like, you know, a version of, you know, no chicken nugget kind of thing. I mean, there's endless possibilities with mushrooms, so don't be shy. Here we go again, just taking a minute. Look at all of that. You see that? Now, if I wanted to, which I'm going to let it burn out, but I could take all that liquid, look at that, and I could put that in a, like on some, you know, I'm thinking of rice millet noodles, but I want to say, you know, chickpea noodles, any kind of, you know, noodle, and, you know, have it as part of like a broth. Mix it in for flavor with a little water, and I don't know. It just simple things that you could do that don't have to be complicated, but oh my gosh, I love mushroom smell. But we can just go ahead and let it just keep doing its thing. I'm not going to drain that and use it for anything today. But it's just, options are amazing, right? So let's see. I could, because they're just the mushrooms, I might add a little bit of garlic powder to it, maybe a little onion powder, since I didn't put the fresh garlic and onion. Let's do that. And let me just get some out of here. You could even spice it up. If you like spice, you can add some sliced jalapenos, or for me, my serrano peppers. I have this tree. I might slice up some serrano peppers, but today I'm not going to add any spice to it, but you certainly could. Even crushed red pepper flakes, that would be delicious. I really like those. They are so good. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Just fabulous looking. And you know, I'm just gonna do, just, I don't know, just kind of sprinkle it about, just like that. Do. So there's no measurements needed and doesn't have to be perfect. It just, offers a little bit of extra flavor. And like I said, you don't even have to do this. I sometimes just eat them the way they come, and it's great. So now I'll just mix them up a little bit more. And you could see they're really starting to get, cooked down compared to when we first put them in here. And so just going to check the flame again. Yep, it's on a medium still. I'm going to go ahead and cover it. And we'll be checking it in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and wash this off, and we'll be right back. So when it comes to storing your mushrooms after you bought them, if they do come in a plastic cover of some sort, what I tend to do if I don't get to them right away is take the plastic off. I will take the mushrooms out. There might be a lot of dirt in them. I might dump that container out, and then I'll line it with a paper towel, or you could use, an old kind of clean kitchen towel, and then put the mushrooms on top of that back in the container, and maybe even cover the top with either another dry clean cloth or paper towel, and then I might loosely put the plastic back on top, or sometimes I just don't even want plastic touching my food, and so even though it came wrapped in plastic, I try to get rid of it. And I find that that also helps from moisture and condensation, that could help make your mushrooms go bad, and so you want to just make sure that you're storing them in a way that keeps them for the longest possible amount of time before you eat them. One other thing I want to talk about is foraging. I've never foraged for mushrooms, but I think it would be really fun. And so foraging is basically when you go out into the wild, into the woods, into an area where they're growing. And we actually have here in the desert in Arizona, so funny, there's a company or whatever at the farmer's market, and they grow their own mushrooms, and they have a class to teach how to forage. And so I've often thought about taking that. I haven't yet. And another time I was traveling internationally with my husband, and we were in Europe, we were in Italy, and we had an opportunity to sign up for digging for truffles. And we didn't end up doing it because they said there weren't any truffles at that time, so that's seasonal. At any rate, if you're going to do that, don't just go and pick any mushroom that you see while you're walking to the park. That's not the right way to do it. There are poisonous mushrooms, so if that's something that you want to try or do, make sure to do it with a guide of some sort, a professional, somebody that knows what they're doing, and then it'll be fun, and you know that it's safe to ingest. So anyhow, if I ever end up doing that, it'll be fun to share with you. But for right now, we're just doing these button mushrooms, and let's take a look. Whoa, look at that. Oh, gosh, do you see how the color is changing too? You can't tell the difference really between the white ones and the cremini because they're just doing such a beautiful job. There's still some liquid here. They're kind of wet. And so I'm just going to maybe leave the lid off for a few minutes and just kind of let them do their thing. Now, once the water boils completely out of the pan, then we have to be careful that if we go too long, it will start to make those brown marks like a stir fry, but then it could stick a little. And if you want, you can go ahead and do it to that point, and then you might just have to add a little bit of water just to release it. So let's see how far we go with these. So you can play with the lid as well, right? So if you have it off and you're stirring it for a while and, you find that the water is almost gone and you want it to continue cooking and you don't want to add any, put the lid on because it kind of acts as like a steam, you're kind of creating a steamy area. You've got the trapped lid, right? And you've got the moisture coming out of the mushrooms. And so it will help it to just continue to get rid of the water and cook them down. And then you won't have them, sticking, and just kind of play with it. But the point is that you can be successful without oil. And that, for me, is a big deal. I even like to eat them in a salad. So I'll take just a fresh bowl of salad, whatever greens and whatever other vegetables to make a beautiful rainbow color. And then I might, especially if I added onions in this, just take, half a cup or whatever and plop it right on the side of my salad bowl or even on top. And even if it's hot and cooked against the cold salad, it's delicious. It brings in a lot of flavors, and it's something that you might want to consider trying as well. I have even steamed my mushrooms in a steamer basket. So I maybe take some zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, and mushrooms, and even onion, and chop them up, put them in a steamer basket. So I'm not looking for it to get rid of the water. I'm not looking for it to be brown, but it's also really good. And I can eat that for breakfast or just about any time, even pour that over the salad. My mouth is watering, okay? So here we go. Here's what I want you to see. You can tell, look, that there's no real major pile of water or liquid. I shouldn't call it water, liquid at the bottom here. And you can see that you can put the mushrooms kind of flat. Now, if you're really going for a mushroom and you want them to be perfectly browned on both sides or on one side, I think baking is the way to go without oil. Another trick would be to do less at one time and literally lay them in there so that they're not stacked like I did. I just dumped them in there. And this way, each individual mushroom will reach the pan by itself and be able to cook, and then you can flip it over. So that might be something to do with the big portobello mushrooms, which we didn't even talk about. Gigantic mushroom caps, they're beautiful. And you can use that in place of like a bun for a veggie burger or anything. I mean, they're also wonderful, wonderful to eat. I've also cooked with mushrooms in the dehydrator, and that isn't, it's considered still raw, although it is also considered, it's got a little bit of a give to it. So it's not like just bringing it home and eating it like raw. I know we talked about, maybe eating it just raw and not cooking it isn't as beneficial, and I couldn't remember why. But I'm also remembering that I've done some really fun stuffed mushrooms in the dehydrator, and I'll link that above if you haven't seen that video in case you're interested and you have a dehydrator. And so it's just to remind you that there is so much flexibility, and we've only just been talking about one vegetable. Let's take a look here. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to say these are done. They are starting to stick. This is what I wanted to show you. Look, it's sticking, and you know what? It's not sticking that much because look I'm moving it. I thought it was going to stick so I could show you. But all the liquid is out. I just kind of made sure that it was not sticking. But if I went even a little bit longer and it really started to stick more and I wanted to get it more cooked, I could just put a little bit of water or broth in there. So let's bring this over here. Wow, look at that. See? It cooks down and it's beautiful. Gonna taste it with me? I wish I could offer you a real taste. Someday we're gonna have to figure that out. I could ask Todd to come in. I don't know if he would want to because I told you, he's not a big mushroom fan. But I'm gonna try these, and if I think they're oh so yummy, which I already know they are, let me see if I think he would like it. Oh my gosh. So, so good. There you go. Mushrooms for the win. No oil, no deprivation, just perfect, great, nutritious food. I hope that this was helpful on your journey to eating for better health and well-being. and understanding that you too can create the magic of making nutritious food without anything that's going to harm you. And so I got to go grab a salad. I want to put this on top, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Take care. Don't forget to eat your greens. Bye for now.